Wanted to do a longer video. It's hard, Instagram's funny, trying to get a lot of information across in 1 minute is always like, ah. I gotta record the video like 4 times, and I always ramble, so I get to like the 1 minute mark and I'm like, I only got half said what I wanted to say, so I figured I'd make a little bit longer vid on this one. I'm gonna toss this one up onto YouTube. A lot of guys are asking for YouTube videos, and I think it'd be cool, better than a 1 minute video. I can explain more. So the 12 valve lift pump, the thing's a little beast. I think just by default, everybody wants to sell you parts, and I hate just buying parts if it doesn't make sense. I want to know like the physics behind it. I want to know when I buy or spend money, I want to know it's not just a waste, because so often you just find everybody wants to sell you crap. It might not even make you go faster. They just want to sell you parts, and you bolt all this crap on, and people have vehicles that they're a turd, they're really slow. And the guy beside him can do all the tweaks, take care of all the details, maximize stock parts, and you can blow the doors off the guy that spent all the money. That nothing works well together. He doesn't understand everything that well. So anyway, I love hot rodding. I love the 12 valve because it's such a simple, bulletproof, just by design. It's such a cool little thing. I could ramble forever. This is my first video, so I got to keep concentrated here, or I'll ramble for an hour. Fuel pumps. So this little mechanical fuel pump, it's a beast. If we can feed it, the inlet fitting, it's huge, man. It's almost 3/4 inch ID, maybe bigger there. Now we do have to put a fitting in there, so the ID of that fitting is going to be the inlet size. But I think I went -10 to half inch NPT. I think is what my fitting I have in my pump. I feed my lift pump with -10 all the way from the tank. There's a pickup tube in the tank. I use factory Ford Mustang tank, and I just bought like the methanol drag race guys will just delete the pump in the tank and just put it's like a draw straw in a way, but these guys have it. It's crazy cheap. Lots of companies sell it. That's what I did. -10 pickup tube, -10 all the way up to the lift pump. Now I want to maximize this lift pump. So this is the one. I kind of disassembled it. Inside is a spring. I have one video where I talked about the spring. Comp Cams 973-1 is the upgraded valve spring. The cam lobe pushes on the plunger, and that kind of like refills the piston. There's a check valve in it. And then the spring is what actually pushes back and pushes fuel to the engine. And when you first take this apart, when you first take this lift pump apart, this just spins off, and it's not even tight. Like, you spin it all the way out and the spring's just jiggling in there. Now when I try to put this Comp Cam one in, there's preload right away. The piston isn't in there now, but when the piston's in, like, I'm gonna have to like preload and spin this thing in, so it's gonna have a lot more pressure on the seat, we could call it. The larger spring pressure, let's say, is gonna help. I think at high RPM this pump might start to float, like how a valve would float in an engine. So this spring helps it not float, because as soon as we start floating, the piston is not going to be moving its full distance. You won't have the full displacement of the pump. So we're going to do the spring upgrade. In this inlet, you can see this one has a screen. I'm popping the screen out too. It's basically a rock catcher. That's not filtering anything. That's any large debris. Maybe for a daily rig I might leave that, but for my race, for this car, I've cleaned out the tank. All the lines are mint. I blew all the lines out. There ain't no junk getting in there, and if there is, whatever. I popped the screen out. There's another deal. This is the outlet. The fuel goes in here. The outlet is on the top. You see the fitting in or the hole size in there. It's pretty tiny. I'm going to drill that out. I'm going to radius sort of the edges to help the flow of the fuel kind of come out that port. What else was I gonna do to this thing? That's probably about it. These pistons, this is the piston that's inside the pump. It's 30 millimeter on the OD. Supposedly there's Chinese pumps that are like 26 mil, 27 mil. That's not going to supply the amount of fuel that we're looking for, I don't think. There's 30 millimeter plungers in a lot of the good pumps, so this is the one you want. It's the biggest one that I know of that I've read about. There's a check valve inside there. What else do we ramble about here? Well, oh, very important actually. So looking at this pump, this top barrel here, let's say that's kind of like your, that's the bore, this is the piston, that's the displacement. It's 30 millimeter, and let's say it moves ½ inch. I actually know the number. I don't know it off the top of my head right now, but that sets the displacement of this pump. Now there's a relief valve in here, right here, this center little tube right in here, there's a relief, and you can actually see there's a little hole down in there. So some of the pumps have an internal relief, and from what I've read, the newer ones, it's deleted. They only had that relief passage on the old ones. So this is a newer pump, and the body looks the same, but the passage inside, there's nothing in there. It's all hollow, and there's actually no hole. This is the one that I want because I'm going to be cranking up my overflow valve, the spring pressure, because I want to, that's basically the relief valve in this fuel system. And I want to have probably 60, 70, 80 PSI at the inlet of the injection pump. But I believe with a lot of these lift pumps, if a guy stretches the crap out of that spring or shims that spring up, you're going to get to the point that this relief valve is going to set the maximum system pressure, no matter what the overflow valve is doing. So I think some guys trying to hot rod and get higher pressure, it may be happening and you don't even know it, that within the lift pump here, it's actually bypassing. You won't be able to get any higher than, let's say, the lowest relief in the system is going to set system pressure. So this pump doesn't have one. So this is cool. This is what I want. And it's factory. It has no relief. I think they probably just got rid of it for whatever reason. They wanted to save some money, and they had the overflow valve anyway and never had any issues with the overflow valve completely plugging off. So there was no reason for a secondary relief. So this is the one I'm going to hot rod, this pump. You see the outlet. It's pretty tiny too. There's what it looks like with the fitting removed. So I want to do something there. Like, I'm not sure yet, but there's some hot rodding to be had there. What else? I'm trying to think of what other tricks we got here. From the outlet of the lift pump, I actually still use the stock line, goes to the filter, banjo bolts, all that seems to look very restrictive anyway, but I'm gonna test it out. If it is restrictive, my pressure sensor is at the inlet of the injection pump. So if the filter is restrictive, if the banjo fittings are restrictive, I'll be able to read that pressure drop or that low pressure at the inlet of the injection pump. So I'm gonna hot rod the crap out of the pump, and then I'll just watch my data logs, and I'll just kind of keep tweaking, and I might drill out all the banjos and see if that helps keep the pressure at the inlet of the injection pump if I have issues with the stock stuff. Again, I don't mind tossing on new parts, but I don't want to just delete everything and spend money where I don't have to. Like, why upgrade? I think it'd be hilarious if this thing could haul ass and just destroy other vehicles on the street with like off-the-shelf factory parts just tweaked and modified to their optimum, to the best they can do. Well, where's my flashlight? Go look at the car here. My lift pump's a little bit unique too. Can you see it? That one's actually unique. It's a different style, and I'm not hot rodding that one because of it. The spring is a different size. It's not a common one. I think it only comes on the like 94, 95. It actually says made in England on it. It's a little bit different. Anyway, that one I'm not gonna hot rod. My buddy Eric lent me 2 of these regular style pumps. And by regular style, I mean, just has the large top bore. It has some kind of a small bore right in the middle there. And then it has the bottom bore that is the primer button. Anyway, I'll stop this video here. I could ramble forever, but I'll have some updates. It's gonna be neat to see what this thing will do. Oh, why I'm doing all this. I'm running a 5x18 injector, which is a pretty big injector. Should be enough to make 700 to 800 horse to the tire on a 160 pump. I got my homemade, I call them full cuts, the delivery valves, full cut delivery valve. I got AFC, all the mods to the AFC done. I got a Mac rack plug. I hillbilly turned the barrels on my own. Hey, my little boy. What are you doing, buddy?
Where's my iPad?
My little boy come out to help me. You got a raccoon outfit? Daddy making a video for hot rodding. I don't know where your iPad is, buddy.
No, I tell Mommy saying you dropped it outside.
No, I didn't. It's inside.
No, Mommy don't know where it is.
Well, go look inside. Hey, get inside. You don't got your shoes on, buddy. Go inside, man. Go inside. I'll come in soon, okay? Okay, love you. My little boy. Oh, I was naming off all the crap. I got a ton of fuel here, or I should have a ton of fuel going into the engine. I got a stock HX35 turbo. When I put the right foot to the rug, immediately I see fracking fuel. Like, you know, it'll blow a freaking chimney. It's coal so thick I could cut it with a goddamn chainsaw, but right away it cleans up, and it shouldn't clean up. So it could be the 160 pump. As you get about 2,800, 3,000 RPM, the 160 horsepower injection pump has trouble filling itself at higher RPM because of its short fill time window on the pump cam, injection pump cam. But so when I'm revving, when I get on it, I'm seeing fuel, and as my RPM's increasing, I see my lift pump pressure drop off, and I can see my stack, everything's cleaning up. And with 5x18s, full cuts, a 160 pump with all the max, everything done, I should have freight train fucking fuel. You should be able to cut it with a freaking chainsaw and it would fall off like a log. Like, I should have so much fuel, it should be ridiculous, and I don't. So I'm really thinking that it's the lift pump. I think when I seen it drop into the teens, my injection pump could push way more fuel, but it's not being fed enough. So that's why I'm doing this modification. Down the road, I might shoot for some really high, like 80 PSI, 85 PSI inlet pressure to the injection pump. Will Terry from Power Driven Diesel had a wicked thread on Cummins forum, I think. Junker Drag Truck. It's awesome, man. I've read that so many times. Thank you very much for all the stuff that he's contributed in that post for all the guys trying to do things on a budget. But lost my train of thought now. I could just ramble forever. Shit. Anyway, it's fuel. They picked up, they'd calculated almost 80 horsepower to the rear tire. They gained on a 160 pump going from about 30 PSI to 85 PSI of lift pump pressure. So why is because the 160 pump, which is what they were using, has a really short window for fill time. The cam lifts the plunger, and then the plunger stays up forever, tons of crank rotation, degrees of crank rotation, and it just stays up there. And then it drops for a little bit, and that's when the lift pump pressure gets to fill the barrel, and then the plunger squirts it out again. But it's such a short fill time window that you got to have a ton of pressure there ready to fill that cavity. Yeah, that's why 160 pumps, lots of guys will hack them, but they flow a ton of fuel, man. Guys have made 700, 800 horse plus to the tire on them. You just got to feed them high inlet pressure. You got to max all the stuff out. So again, these are all the things I'm doing, rambling on here. I'll have some updates. Anyway, okay, I'm out of here.